Welcome to the Currency of Grief, the podcast where we confront two of society's most taboo topics, death and money. My name is Jake Weidenfeld, and I'm here to serve as your grief financial officer, guiding you through the complex and emotional journey of what happens when money and mortality collide. Whether you're navigating the aftermath of losing a loved one, looking for practical advice on handling pre- and post-death planning, or simply just wanting to start those hard conversations about legacy while you still can, this space is for you. Together, we'll hear real-life stories from real-life people who have navigated the intersection of grief and money and come out the other side. Our guests will share their stories, practical insights, valuable advice, and moments of clarity so that none of you have to navigate this alone. I'm grateful you've decided to join us on this journey. Now let's dive in. So without further ado, let's meet our guests for today's podcast. I am thrilled to be joined in the virtual studio with Jake Weidenfeld. Jake is 19 years old. He's an incoming freshman at the University of Michigan studying economics and entrepreneurship. During high school, spawned from his own grief experience, Jake started a nonprofit called Grief Lift, which is a peer-to-peer mentorship program for students in schools across South Florida and hopefully across the globe one day. Jake is one of, if not the most mature 19-year-olds I've ever come across, and I'm just not saying that because I'm biased, but he really is. Fresh off his week at experience camps, I'm humbled and honored to be joined in the virtual studio with Jake Weidenfeld. Jake, thanks for joining me this morning.
Thanks for having me, Justin. And I do think you're a little biased, but it's okay. I'll take it.
I've hung out with 19-year-olds when I was 19 through experience camps and today, and I fully believe that I am not being biased with that quote. But anyway, typically we talk about how we met, but this is an awkward one because I've known you your entire life. So how's it been growing up being my brother?
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I remember when you would, have friends over and whatnot when you were in high school, and I would crash your parties and stuff as a little 7-year-olds, be like, Justin, give me the TV back, SpongeBob's on.
Always fighting over the TV, and me being a good big brother.
Yeah.
Sometimes let my little brother win on the TV battle, but not in the basketball courts.
Yeah, no, definitely not in the basketball court. I always didn't really like watching sports when I was younger, and then you would like only watch sports, and then you made me start watching sports. So, and now I watch sports. So that's a huge accomplishment from you.
One thing that we're both grateful of, that I forced sports down your throat, and now you're more athletic than me.
Say that again.
I blame my back and genetics. But anyway,
I
started recording this podcast in the room right next to yours. I actually recorded an episode in actually your room. And so when you heard that I was starting the Currency of Grief, what made you want to come on the podcast? And what made you want to come on the podcast today?
I mean, there's a lot. There's many reasons. First of all, family supporting family. Love you, brother. Got you. And I think that podcasts are a super cool opportunity to learn more about people without actually, without actually being in person with them. You can just listen, learn about them. I've actually listened to some podcasts recently over the last few years about business leaders and things like that. And it's given me good insight into how I can shape my life if I want to shape my life after one of these other people. But I also think, and this is the most important reason, I think that being young, when we lost dad, I bring a different perspective than a lot of the other guests. But I also think that there's conversations that I've had with with our family that are slightly different, slightly more in the I have no idea what's going on side of things. Like someone's got to tell me. And also conversations with my friends that are probably different than friends that you have and friends that, people in later in their life have, because nobody teaches how to talk about grief. Nobody teaches how to talk about anything related to money at an age, at like in high school, in middle school, anything like that. So conversations with my friends and the stories that I have could be different from those of other people, and I think that it's going to bring a good perspective.
Definitely. I think we'll dive into some of our inside conversations, some of our families, some of your friends, which is definitely a unique perspective. And then you really do have a unique perspective being so young, navigating a grief and money journey, and now navigating also high school and the college application process, and now going to college next week, literally. Go blue, what that journey looks like. And I think our audience is real life stories from real life people. And like there are both parents with kids who are going through this journey who lost a parent, as well as kids who may be listening out there who need some guidance. And this is a safe community to provide that guidance. And I love your perspective. So our audience probably knows a little bit about my loss and therefore our loss, but they don't know it through your lens. And so, Jake, tell us, as you probably know and have listened on the Currency of Grief, we don't hold back. We dive in to that grief story and our adversity that we've faced in our lives. And so tell us a little bit about your grief story and the timeline.
Yeah, so it was the summer of when I was 12 years old, I think sixth grade summer, and I was like I left to go to camp on this summer, and I actually left. When I left, Dad and I were not like we weren't really happy with each other. I remember, or I was upset with him over something, which was frustrating, or is very frustrating now, but was also frustrating then, because we had some like dinner, and then I like kind of just left and went over to mom's, and then um, went off on my way to camp. And it was always kind of tough, like balancing mom and dad, like when they were divorced, because it was like it was two very different um, kind of vibes around the house and things like that. But sometimes I would get like overwhelmed or stressed out with dad a lot and things like that. But then I went to camp, and on a random color war day, I got brought into the office, and I had like no idea what it was for. And then it was you, mom, and I think Aunt Joan there. And you told me that dad died of a heart attack in Utah. And I was, to say the least, surprised. But I was like, I like didn't believe it at all, because I mean, number one, he wasn't sick, anything like that. To me, it seemed like a very, like, how could that even happen? But also, I didn't see it. I didn't know, like, there was no way for me to actually,
Verify.
yeah, verify, see anything related to it. So I was like, yeah, no, there's no way. But then I like walked in, or it was mom and Aunt Joan were already like crying, and I was like just taken by a wave of like what is going on. And I remember like walking around camp that the rest of that day and being like, geez, like my life's about to change, but I have no idea how, and I don't know what that means. And also being like I'm never gonna talk to him again. And I mean, dad, like I love dad. Like he taught me many things that I know and know now, and he was going to teach me many things that I wish I know now, or I maybe have learned, but also things like how to drive a boat, how to get my boater's license. Like that was something I was very much looking forward to that I was going to get when I was 12, and I didn't. And so I went home, and I was like sad that I was leaving camp, but also I knew I had to because I honestly wasn't in like a mental spot to be at camp because I was like kind of frustrated, kind of upset, kind of like what do I do with myself? We went home, and then his funeral was a few days later, and his funeral was probably like the toughest day of my life for me. It was hundreds of people that I either knew or didn't know or didn't want to talk to, wanted to talk to, didn't want to see me in my current state. That was for everyone. And I kind of was talking to mom, and I was like, Mom, like I gotta get out of here. I can't be here for this like I don't know, cocktail hour aspect of it. Like the before.
When we were in like the private room and people were coming in and
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I gotta.
condolences.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of like locked myself in like a smaller room for a while and didn't talk to anyone. And kind of, I think I just sat there with mom, and then I don't know, maybe you and mom kind of switched off a little bit, but that was tough. And then during the funeral, I just was like thinking to myself, what am I supposed to feel? Like, what are people expecting me to feel? Am I feeling the right way? And I kind of forced myself to just be sad always for the next few weeks and months after that. And then I remember at the Shiva, it was like some of my friends were there. They didn't know what to say, but it was nice that they were there, paying their respects and whatnot. And I just kind of went upstairs and like played video games and didn't really talk to any of the other people because it was people I'd never seen before being like, oh, Jake, I remember when you were like in the little like bucket and like your dad. And I was like, I don't need to hear this story that I'm sure means like it means so much. Like it's awesome that you're telling me, but it's been, you know, it's been 24 hours since the funeral, or 2 hours since the funeral actually, and like, 72 hours
ready for the stories
since I found out he died. So I just like don't need this right now. So yeah, I went upstairs and then yeah, the next like 5-6 months were so tough. I mean, I didn't talk to anyone about it. I showed up to school the first day. That was crazy because I showed up to school the first day, and I was like, I just started bawling my eyes out right before I get into class. I like didn't need somewhere to go, so I went to the guidance counselor, Miss Morris, who helped me so much. She was great, but I didn't talk to her about anything really grief related. It was just more like me being like, I want to go home, and she was like, you got it, like you can stick it out. But yeah, I couldn't talk to anyone about it, or I didn't feel like I could talk to anyone about it. And on top of that, I just didn't like, I couldn't talk. I didn't know what I could say to my friends or not. I knew everyone, I knew most everyone knew what had happened, but I didn't know if that affects the way that they think of me. But I thought it did. So I changed a lot about how I felt. I changed a lot about how I felt and how I would act. And there wasn't like a lot of smiling and laughing for that first like 3 months, 4 months after I got back, because I was just like, I forced myself not to. It would be maybe something funny would happen, and I would just shut myself down. And that was a hard part as well, because all of my thoughts related to him turned into like a direct mood swing, no matter what. Like it wasn't, I could think of him in a happy light. It was always, no matter what I'm doing, like I would feel a rush, and like my like I could feel the blood in my veins. You know that feeling when you feel the heat in your body when you think about something. And overall, I just felt like I felt alone, 1,000%. I didn't know anyone at the time going through something similar. And I also felt like I felt judged, and whether I was or I wasn't, which now looking back on it, I probably wasn't, but that's how I felt, and it was tough for sure.
Definitely. So if you were to reflect back on it, um, back on that whole journey, do you know like why you may have, in your words, forced yourself to be sad?
Yeah, I
And there's no
mean,
right answer. I'm just curious.
I think well, I've thought about like the different stages of my life, and I think in middle school is a very big time of I'm trying to kind of fit in, conform, find out what other people are doing to become cool, I guess. And I kind of did that in sixth grade. And then I also was going through something that nobody else had really gone through. So I was like,
Yeah.
what do I think is the right reaction for this? Or like what would most people do in this situation? So I kind of
Yeah.
just made myself act like that. But I don't know why it took me so long to kind of shake that. Um, and I don't know why. And honestly, I think that in the future, I realized that I'm my own person. Like very much so in high school, I realized that I'm on my own, like on my own journey. Like it's to, like however I feel every day is up to me. Like it doesn't matter what other people think. But
Yeah.
as a middle schooler, as a 12-year-old, I was not able to come across that conclusion.
Yeah. So I think it's funny and it's interesting because at experience camps, we provide joy and experiences to kids right in like your wheelhouse and you just experience that. So like I think a lot of those kids and a lot of kids who experience a death in their family, a death of someone close to them, they think you're supposed to feel sad. You're not supposed to feel joy. You're not supposed to feel happiness. And then like you're the master of your own journey, like you just said. And to be able to go and still laugh with friends and remember stories about dad and the boat and Park City and stuff like that, and feel joy from them, not just sadness. I think that's and then just go feel joy playing sports or whatever it might be, like the kids at camp. That's like
Yeah.
an amazing transition to understand that like you can feel happy.
Yeah, and I think experience camps this year. I mean, it was great that I had the group of people that I did. I had 12-year-old seventh graders. Um, some of them were 11, but and when we got the camper profiles, Brett and I were talking. Brett's one of my co-counselors for all you listeners out there. Brett and I were talking, and I was like, yeah, this is like a weird stage of their life. Or no, he was like, yeah, this is like a weird stage of life. I was like, yeah, they might be trying to, fit in and things like that. And then that kind of made me remember how I was about that
Mm.
age. And remember, like that the grief kind of spiraled it and caused it. And then also it made me think of how much I've grown since then. So it's something that I'm proud of. It's also something that I've learned from. Like I think that experience has caused me to become the person I am today. And I think that, dad's death, what's happened after that definitely has had, probably been the most impactful thing in my life. But I do think that it's the aftermath that taught me a lot and what happened around that. And I think that experience camps helped me help other people, which is, I mean, what's better than that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's what dad would do.
Yeah.
So and talking about going to school, um, was it challenging? I mean, most people in our society don't know how to react when someone's grieving, yet alone 12-year-olds and middle schoolers, yet alone potentially your teachers. Was it, how was, like you said, it sound like you felt alone. What was it like when your friends didn't know what to say and um, at the Shiva or the first day back at school?
Yeah. So Justin, I'm like so glad you asked that because this is something that I'm pretty passionate about right now. Is that there's not a good platform for talking about grief or learning about grief. I mean, I think that grief in general is a very like swept under the rug, forgotten about part of life that is inevitable. I mean, everyone grieves, whether you are, you know, losing something that has a small impact or a big impact, you grieve from it. And I think that when you lose someone like your dad, like we have, um, it's very important that people know how to react to that. And no, and honestly, not many people or nobody really does. If unless they have either gone through it or, been to a place like experience camps. But specifically talking about my friends first, I mean, they're awesome. Like I love my friends more than anything. Um, and they did a good job showing that they supported me, but that I never felt like I could talk to them necessarily about some of the intricacies and some of the. I mean, I don't think I really talked to my friends about, the whole, even my grief story, like not getting super into it, but even my grief story until in the last year. It was like I don't think I really shared it with any of them. Besides in sophomore year or the end of sophomore year, one of my friends, Charlotte, experienced a loss in her own family, and that summer, she reached out to me. She asked me, what to do. She was at a loss, and I kind of helped her through that. But while helping her through that, I was like, this helps me so much. Just being able to talk to someone my age, be able to bounce ideas in a way off of her, but also um, help her with her grief. She helped me with my grief. Talk about, oh my gosh, like was like when people would bring food over, was this how you felt? And she was like, oh my gosh, yes. And it's like that us laughing and being like, oh, like I had the same experience, but also being like, we're talking about the death of someone we loved.
You were able to share it in joy and like
Yeah,
have
1,000%.
someone to go through it with.
Yeah, and it was awesome. And because of that, Charlotte had the idea of, creating some type of grief related thing at Pinecrest. And I was like, I need to hop on this. This is genius. And I was like, let's, make it so we create not only a like peer-to-peer connection group in high school, but also a mentor group throughout all of Pinecrest. And then more recently, kind of adding to that faculty aspect, we've thought about adding a educational component as well. So this whole like organization that we're starting or have started but are expanding is called Grief Lift, which is right now a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping grieving kids in school ages 4 to 18. We're not quite in college yet, but that could change very soon. Um, and it started with a high school peer-to-peer connection group that met once every other week and kind of became a mentorship while also having the peer-to-peer connection group within high school, but also a mentorship between lower schoolers, middle schoolers, and high schoolers across campus. And then we further created it into us going to other Pinecrest campuses, like the Boca Raton campus, and helping the people who, go to school there and have lost someone. And we have we're finishing up and pushing out our website, which will allow people to connect across school. Allow people, hey, like I'm having a tough day. Does anyone have any tips for this? Maybe someone who goes to the same school can directly chat through the website and then decide when to meet or anything like that. It's also, we've talked to other administrators from schools like American Heritage Plantation, what's called American Heritage Plantation and North Broward Prep to be able to completely install it in those schools or some type of grief related support group under the umbrella of Grief Lift. And it's kind of what the name says. It's lifting the grief off your shoulders. And it's also, grief is we created it kind of a acronym out of it, where it's gaining resources, including everlasting friendships. So it kind of is the goal of not only you're going to get support, you're going to gain these resources to be able to deal with your grief, deal with the tough days, but it's also these peer-to-peer connections that are unlike anything else. I mean, Charlotte is one of my closest friends. I talk to her about things that I do not talk to anyone else about, and I'm forever grateful for it. And she will forever be a friend because of it, because we're connected, and she knows it, I know it. And at experience camps, I really saw it too. First day, Bree, who's the grief specialist there, or the head grief specialist, she said that everyone's connected by a thread, or all of us who are there were connected by a thread that's unbreakable. And there wasn't an actual thread, but I could see the thread. And it's beautiful to see. It's awesome.
They're creating that through Grief Lift in schools. And so I think just through your experience of going back to school and feeling super alone, not knowing who to go to for support, your teachers not understanding what you're going through mentally, physically, you're creating that thread in schools through Grief Lift. And obviously it's there at the experience camps community because we're in a bubble and everybody's there together navigating our own challenges. And it's with our podcast and our podcast listeners. We're all connected by a thread as well. If you're listening to this podcast and if you've experienced your own grief.
It's awesome. And it's like a group you don't want to join, but once you're in it, it's like the best group ever. Everyone who it's a different type of adversity to face. And it's like when Charlotte and I walk throughout school, you see however many people throughout a day. And some days might be tougher than others. And I don't want to go up to a random person in my, I don't even know, government and politics class and be like, hey, today I've been struggling. I want to go up to Charlotte, or I want to go up to someone else in the Grief Lift community who I know gets it.
As a middle schooler, who gave you support? Who helped you? You mentioned Charlotte, you mentioned your guidance counselor. Who gave you support?
Yeah, I would say anything before high school, really, it was you. I mean, it was Justin Weidenfeld, if we need the government official name. Yeah, so I remember we were playing basketball here in our neighborhood, and it was like 6 to 8 months after Dad had died, and I had not talked about it to anyone. Like, I think that I didn't say a single word about it. Maybe I said Dad under my breath, not even his name. Like, I said Dad under my breath. We played basketball and I lost. I think it's the last time I ever lost to you. No, I'm joking. I lost.
Well, when you were 12 years old?
Yeah, I was 12. Yeah, there was definitely
I stopped playing for the record.
Yeah. Yeah, you moved away because of it. But no, so I lost and we came back to my room. Like, we were sitting right here and I was I was like, oh, no, sorry. We were walking back and I just started bawling. And then we came into my room and we were sitting right here and I just started talking to you about everything from I feel lost. I don't know anyone who I can talk to about this. I mean, I have great friends, but I feel kind of like not like they're looking at me in a weird way, but that I have a different expectation than everyone else. And I don't know what to do about it. I don't know who I can talk to. And I need someone who's not like a therapist, because I was seeing a therapist and that felt very, very like non-conversational, very so how did that make you feel, kind of? And I really appreciate the good conversations we had, but it just didn't work for me, to the point where I was like, I don't really appreciate, like, or I don't really need or want to just be talked at or talk at someone.
So I just want to harp on that for 1 second, because therapy may work for some people, it doesn't work for everybody.
For
Why
sure.
didn't therapy work for you?
hmm Um, that's a good question. So I was meeting with this therapist, and honestly, I didn't feel as though this therapist was very involved in grief or like focused on grief necessarily. I thought that they were like a general overall therapist, and it was like generic questions that, of course, in my situation, made me talk about a little bit about grief. But I didn't think that I talked about, or it made me talk about it in the manner I wanted to. It was a lot of, so how'd you feel today? And I would be like, oh, I felt pretty good, but I didn't like, but I, in my mind, I was like, but I didn't act it, but I felt pretty good. And then she'd be like, and why do you think that you felt good today and not good yesterday? And I would be like, I don't know, like I'm 12, but, but I think that I also had an idea in the back of my mind that we're like paying this person to talk to me kind of, and we're paying this person to help me through mental things. And of course, it was her job, or it is her job. But I didn't feel the connection because of that, and I thought that like the economic component, while being necessary because that's how capitalism works, um, I didn't think that it was it allowed us to have a genuine connection, and I what I needed was a genuine connection and a genuine conversation over grief, and it just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
What Charlotte says is the connection that me and her have and the conversations that we have are unlike anything that you can have with a therapist who doesn't actually know you like sincerely as a person.
So, what did help? Would you say going out and playing basketball with me and like that helped, or having one-on-one conversations with Charlotte, her mom, or um, like going out on a boat? Like, did those things help? What did, because what did, or who did provide you that support?
Yeah, I mean, I would say you, mom, and Charlotte really spearheaded the support
Yeah.
aspect, and it's interesting because it's different stages. Like you, right? You were the only person I'd really talked to about it after in like those that year after, and I still, of course, talk to you about it and talk to mom about it, and I always talk to mom about it. Besides that first year, uh, but Charlotte, it's a little bit different because we're like the same age, and that's definitely a good perspective. So talking to people wise, I mean, it was a lot of like you and mom. It was Charlotte helped a lot, but I would say in terms of actions, it was a lot of like how can I keep my mind busy.
Mm.
So I kind of started playing video games with a lot of my friends because I mean, when I was with my friends, it was like sometimes I would when I was with my friends and not in school and stuff, it was like, oh yeah, we're doing an activity. And it was always super fun because I would be like, it would either be a competitive activity where I'm trying to win or something that's taking my mind off of it. So video games helped with that a lot because I was like able to be at home, not in my own mind thinking to myself. But one
Yeah.
thing, so a day that was always super difficult or has been super difficult is Halloween. I'm sure it's similar for
Hmm.
you, but when dad was
Definitely.
alive, that was like the biggest day of the year. He would throw a massive party, and it's his birthday. So it was like always the best, like literally always my favorite day of the year. Um, and more recently, well, since he died, it has quickly become like the worst day of the year, because everyone looks forward to it so much, and everyone's like, "This is like Halloween's like so amazing and all that." And I'm just thinking to myself about his parties, about him, about how, in a happy and sad manner, of course, about how I miss it, about how I miss like hugging him, wishing him happy birthday, how that feels, how the parties, how he would act, how he would be kind of goofy, how he would channel his inner child, as some may say. Um, and so that day is really tough. But what I started doing is on days that are tough, I just take 10 minutes, 15 minutes to myself, think about him in a positive, way. Well, it's been in a positive way where I'm like, oh my gosh, like on Halloween he used to do this, like go through some pictures, maybe talk to myself about, what I miss, what's and what I can do now to make the most out of these days, and what he would want me to do, really. And that's helped extremely because oh no, please. That's helped extremely because he's like he was just always so positive, so happy, and such a great person that I like miss thinking about the things he would do, and he kind of shaped and idolized how I am now, how I want to help people, how I want to, create positive experiences for other people. And in order to make sure I stay, kind of on that track, I have taken time out of days to remember him, to remember what he does, and kind of remember his legacy. And on top of that, the charity golf tournament, WWDD, What Would Don Do? Charity golf tournament. Follow us on Instagram. No, I'm joking. But it has enabled me to look at pictures of him. And actually, over the last year that we've worked on it, or let's say a year and a few months, I have gotten way better at looking at pictures of him without having it like take over my day and having it create either a sadness or like a fog in my day. Because, I'm kind of doing a lot of the marketing. So I'm looking at a lot of pictures of him, and it's made me look at pictures, and now I'm looking at pictures, I'm smiling. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I kind of remember this, or things like that. And it's also helped us create his legacy, or bring back his legacy that was, kind of gone for 6-7 years. And it was never actually gone, but it was, a lot of people didn't think about it. And it feels so good to connect the community that he created, and enable people to give generously, love lavishly as he would, channel everyone's inner child, and also adventure always. And those are like, that's what I want. That's what I live by, and that's what I want to stay living by. And that's like, there's nothing better.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than continuing his legacy, continuing to live by his core values, and sharing it with other people.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing better than when we had the first golf tournament at the dinner, seeing his whole community mixed with people from our community who maybe didn't know him as well in one room, celebrating and remembering his legacy. I remember the slideshow that we created that was playing throughout the kind of, chill cocktail hour aspect. And I was just like, every single one of these pictures is making me smile. Like people are stopping, looking at it. Graham Harvey was one who was, I think, watching every single slide very closely.
Yeah. I think for me also, you mentioned this earlier, as like at the Shiva 5 days after he died, I wasn't really ready to hear those stories about him. I wasn't ready to like understand that he was fully gone. And now, 6 years later, everything is settled. Like, we're kind of settled into our lives. We've grown through grief. And now I feel like we're ready to hear those stories and live in his honor and bring back his legacy and talk about grief like we are on this podcast.
Yeah. Part of me actually thinks that, like, a potential reason for not thinking about him for a while was because so many people were coming up to me and trying to tell me different stories and whatnot. And I was like, I didn't like that. I didn't like that right after he died. So why would I like that now? Yeah. With that being said, the best thing that I'm doing now is like looking at pictures of him, smiling, remembering him. When people tell me about him, I'm just like, I like laugh. It's awesome. And since experience camps, I've realized that, which isn't a lot of time, but since experience camps, I've realized that I don't say his name enough. So I made him one of the 3 pictures that are my background on my phone. And whenever I see the picture, I just say his name under my breath. And it's like, it helps me because I had not seen, read, or said his name in so long before the golf tournament. And I want to make sure that I keep it a theme to say his name and keep his legacy as we are doing with the golf tournament. April
That's super
20th, by the
cool.
way.
April 20th, 2026. See you there. Is there any other way that your life changed, like physically or logistically or emotionally?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the biggest changes were, or I'll just go with the biggest, like the first changes that I can remember. Like right after he died, we sold his house, um, moved out. I fully moved in with mom, which was a pretty big difference because it went from dad who likes to love and live lavishly. He liked his
He, li-
toys also, had a boat, jet skis,
he had a lot of toys,
a
jet
lot of
skis,
toys, yeah.
boat, pool table, all that
Cobra.
jazz.
But yeah, so it went from that
Fancy
to
car.
kind of, yeah, living with mom, which I love, but I never lived in like one house my whole life. It always, well, since I was like 5 years old, it had always been
Yeah, I
them
think
being
earlier.
divorced. Yeah, earlier. It had always been like them being divorced, me having to move between houses, and I was not used to that. And I always thought like it was nice to go from mom's house to dad's house where I can do all these things. And it was nice to come back to mom's house because at mom's house was my like locking in, like I got school or something like that. But now that kind of switched to mom's house was both of those for me. Um, that was definitely difficult. And it was also difficult selling like his like different things like the Utah house, and all that. When we went out to visit the Utah house for the last time, that was kind of bittersweet because it was super, I mean, it was super fun out there, but I knew why we were there and it was to kind of sell it, and it would be the last time being there. And it's kind of, it's a mix of, it's adding to the grief because it's like, this is something that we would go out there twice a year. It's something that he was so high on. Loved Utah. Loved every moment we spent out there. True family memories and bonding was out there. Um, but that was kind of like the last time we went there. That was sad. And then I would say kind of seeing. I thought that seeing our step family was going to be a lot more difficult. I mean, I love Fabi, Megan, and Nicole. They're like the best, and I wanted to continue to see them as much as possible. But I thought in my head that there was no way that we were going to be able to see them as much as
because
living in the same
because they
house.
were living at dad's house with dad. We had to
Yeah,
sell, we sold that house, so they moved to a different house and you
exactly.
weren't living there.
I was not correct, and also they were like they like love going on boats and whatnot, and it was like going out to dinner on the water, and it was that was completely taken out of my life. Um, but we started doing arepa nights, which like best night of my week because I kind of let go of everything else that's going on outside of that dinner, and it's like we just sit together for an hour and a half. We either just eat the arepas and talk, or we play games and um, just have really fun time, and it's awesome. And
Yeah,
then I would say that another thing that changed is when I was younger, I really was into the whole boating and jet skiing scene. And I kind of wanted to, get my boater's license, be able to take friends out on the boat at some point, like maybe in high school and things like that. And that whole idea went completely out of the window. And now when I, let's say, meet friends who have jet skis or meet friends or talk to friends who like have boats and, invite people out on them, I think of how, that not that could have been me, but like I wanted that to be me. Like I wanted to be the person to do that.
I think it's interesting because like when you talk to people in our area who have a boat or have like a ski house, you're like, oh, like we used to have that
Yeah.
house, like we used to have a boat, we used to be able to go on jet skis, and unfortunately, that's not our reality anymore. And you could still have gratitude in that and gratitude in those experiences that we grew up having, but it's super challenging to be like, yeah, we're always the guest instead of for the first 12 years of your life and 21 years of my life, we were like the host of those ski houses and those big boat trips, for better or for worse, whether the
Yeah.
boat would make it through and break down or not.
I actually think that that's like super valid point because I one of the first things I ask people if I find out that they're living on the water, I'm like, oh, do you have jet skis? Like that actually might be the question that comes right after I find out if someone's living on the water. And sometimes like someone, I forget who, but someone was like, why do you care so much about jet skis? Like I feel like you're always, and I'm like, oh, like
Let
I
me
used to
tell
have
you.
jet skis. Like it's like I used to have jet skis. I like loved riding them and all that. So that's tough, and it's something that I don't know, I don't really like talking about, but I do like talking about it, if that makes sense. It's similar to skiing. Like I've been skiing once in the last 7 years, and I kind of lost all my ability. But I used to be good at skiing. Like I used to be an avid skier, and I don't have it anymore. And when I talk to people about it, it's like, oh yeah, I was good at skiing, but I'm not anymore. And if someone asks why, I'm just like, I don't go to Utah anymore.
Changing gears, or I guess continuing down this trend a little bit of like the first thing, obviously, the first thing was navigating some emotions. It was going back to school, figuring out how that worked. Then Halloween, which for most people is a super fun day. And for us is especially that first Halloween was like very sad. What do we do on his birthday? And then we sold some of dad's, his home, his cars, his boat. Um, we had to figure things out. So um, obviously you were 12 years old at the time, but what were the first financial or legal or logistical steps that you had to deal with as a 12-year-old?
Yeah. So I think I went 5 to 6 years having very minimal conversations about anything financial that was going on with my life or with, inheritance or anything related to that. Um, the first steps that I remember are mom having to deal with the courthouse on about the guardianship, um, being able to, pull money from what I would get when I'm 18, which at the time I didn't even understand that. But being able to pull money to use it on me, which I think it's difficult because mom and dad were divorced. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
I I mean I I don't know like why it was difficult. I don't know what made
Yeah.
it super tough, but a lot of mom's anxiety that kind of would sometimes radiate was related to this guardianship, going to the courthouse, getting the money to actually, pay for my life and me to eat, sleep, not sleep, eat, drink, like water and
Yeah.
whatever. And I was like, I had no idea what was going on there, but I remember going to the courthouse one time and like signing a paper, like taking a picture or something like that. And I was like, oh, now you'll be able to, now everything will be fine. Like you'll be able to perfectly like pay for what you need to. And that wasn't the case because I
Yeah.
thought it's like, oh, you sign one paper and everything's perfect, but that's just not the case at all. But I remember when I turned 17,
Right.
both my mom and Grandpa Harvey both said to me in different circumstances, they were like, we need to start having a conversation about inheritance and money and what's going to happen when you turn 18. And I honestly don't even think that conversation had ever happened with either of them when I was 17, until I was like maybe 1 month away from turning 18. And my mom and I talked about investing in stocks, which was a very fun conversation, but not but a very fun conversation that actually has had pretty good returns. but but I but I didn't know, like I was like, oh, what else? Like I didn't know to ask that. I didn't know that there was more to ask. I was like, oh yeah, like investment account. And then I went and opened up a credit card. I was like, nice, got my credit card. I was like, got a checking account, saving account, boom, we're good. That's everything I need to know. Had no idea anything else went into it. I turned 18, and then Justin, you and I went to Cleveland for like 2.5, 3 weeks for an internship when I was with the Cavs. Go Cavs, guys. And we sat down, I think, 3 or 4 times that week to talk about finances. And it was those conversations where I learned, trusts versus wills. I learned what qualified accounts are, 529s, IRAs, traditional Roth IRAs, everything like that. I learned what, like, investment accounts. I learned what I had, what I have, what I had, what I needed to do to keep what I have, what I needed to do, or what I needed to do to grow what I have. And I learned the difference that, going to an in-state versus out of state college would make a difference on. That was actually pretty eye-opening when you plugged everything into the financial projections calculator and the difference that little things made on the future. I can picture the graphs still. I'm a visual learner anyway, so it was helpful. So good job, financial advisor. It was good. But I remember learning so much about what I had and what things mean. And I never knew it. And I had this stuff, or I was going to have this stuff for 6 years prior. So in my mind, I was like, what's the disconnect? Like, why? Like, I would have been more prepared when I turned 18 to actually understand what I have, know what everything means. Because in my mind, it was like, oh, you inherit a certain amount of money, you can use it on whatever you want. That's what's happening. Yeah. But no, that's not how it's set up, which is good. That is not how it's set up. Hopefully I would have had some self-control, but it's good that that's not how it was set up. Sure. And like, I understand so much more about like what I have, but also what everything means. And it made me actually very interested in finance in general. Like you are now, like Dad was, private wealth management, all that. I maybe not would go into it, but I'm super interested in like telling people about how different things work. Like sometimes my friends will say, oh, I don't even know how paying for college like works or things like that. And I'm like, well, do you want the actual answer? Because you might have a 529 account or 529 plan that's actually qualified finances for whatever you want to spend on for education. They appreciate it. But it's all super interesting.
So I want to take a step back because we talked through a lot there.
Yeah, that was a lot.
You went through a lot of the different dynamics, kind of everything that happened from 4 months after Dad passed to 7 years, 6 years. So to today, which is really interesting. So what happened was Dad died without a will, and Jake was 12 years old. And so what happens when Jake is a beneficiary and there's no vehicle to pass Jake money, like a trust, is that everything goes into a guardianship. The guardianship, or the person who passes, if they did have a will and ancillary documents, would have dictated who would have been the financial guardian for Jake. But instead, that wasn't dictated. And so our mom, who was taking care of Jake, had to go to the courthouse and petition to be the financial guardian. It's not, you would think it just goes to like the mom, but that's not always the case because there's different family dynamics. There's people who are orphaned or adopted by different relatives or whatever it might be. Furthermore, a trust, Jake would have inherited everything in a trust, and then it would have kind of sat in the trust protected for a long period of time, and he would have been able to use it, or the trustee of the trust would have been able to use it for Jake's benefit to pay for high school, college, a trip that he wanted to take, teen tour, education, whatever that might be. Instead, the guardianship, every time that we needed money to pay for something for Jake, like sleepaway camp, we had to go through a guardian, the court system, to ask them and say, hey, this is what we need it for. Is that okay? And this is a checks and balance to make sure that the guardian and trustee or the conservator isn't misusing the funds, but it racks up super high fees and lawyers' fees, and it's super stressful to go to the courts, and it's really complicated. And on top of mom now being sort of like originally mom and dad were a team supporting the both of us. Once dad passed away, now it's just mom sort of supporting all like the two of us, and that's super stressful and super and takes her away from her living her life and like doing her job or work or whatever that might be. And so yeah, it's definitely, you can definitely imagine how it was a cause just high stress, high tensions. And it sounds like you didn't know a lot about the intricacies of what was going on, which sort of makes sense. As a 12, 13-year-old, we just probably, I mean, we wanted to get you back to your new normal and not kind of shield you from everything above and beyond just navigating your grief. And so looking back on it now as a 19-year-old, would you have wished we had that type of conversation earlier? And would you have wanted to be exposed at 13 or 14 to like all that complicated stuff that like even as a 19-year-old, most 19-year-olds probably don't even understand what I just said?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've thought about this a good amount, because I don't think that I would want to know everything right away when I like let's say if dad dad died, I wouldn't have wanted to have had this conversation like 6 months later. But don't I don't like how the conversation was kind of just every single thing that went into it was kind of just rushed on me. I would have rather, the whole guardianship thing have been explained, let's say when I was like 13, 14 years old, because it was relevant. It was very relevant at the time and all that. Now I like had to piece that together, and it was kind of more difficult to piece together because it's not as relevant now. And then the trust versus will, I think that conversation coming when I was, would have came like, if it came, let's say a few months before I turned 18, that would have been great because it came like right when I turned 18. And that's kind of when I learned everything. So it was tough to focus on that, because I then signed my trust, and
Mm-hmm.
that took a while to do because there was a lot of other things going on that I had to sign and whatnot, and also school and college applications and things like that. But
Yeah.
after signing it, realized the importance of it. And after like not reading it, but skimming through some of the big words, I realized
Reading
that,
every word,
yeah,
Trevor.
no, yeah, where's Trevor? um, I, I like could have used that conversation a little bit before, because I didn't know, like I had no idea why the money went into a guardianship or what that even meant. And hearing those two conversations at the same time kind of confused me. And then also like a question that I've always wondered is, why didn't Dad sign a will or have a trust or whatever? And not an answered question, but that was all I could think about when you told me about what a trust versus a will is and all that. I was like, why would he not just sign a document or just like write two names on a sheet of paper? I don't know.
I don't provide a lot of advice on this podcast, but I personally do believe that anybody over the age 18 should have a will. And Jake does at the age of 19 when he's going to college. One, not necessarily because of the assets that he has, but more so because of the health stuff and the healthcare proxy. And in case he needs medical assistance while he's in college, like the hospital knows who to go to. And in case he needs money or someone else to help pay for some aspect of his life at 19 years old, when he should be out going, like hanging out with friends and starting businesses and growing in his career, like his power of attorney can help and step in. Furthermore, anytime you have a kid or there's a major change in your life, Jake's stories are really unfortunate but great example of why you need to look at these documents, understand what, if you have you have a will, is it up to date? Is it including your kids? Do you have the proper people you want in place to be the guardians of your kids? And it's really not that expensive these days to put into place a trust that would just allow your family, the guardian of your child, God forbid something were to happen, to take over or help manage the assets on behalf of that minor child.
Yeah, and you did a really good job of explaining it to me, and then Trevor, he's done a great job of also helping me through that. Yeah. And it seems like something so easy and so doable that it kind of surprises me that
I will say though, for you, it did take a couple months for you to finalize it. So it's the same thing. It took me as well. Like I put a date on the calendar 3 months in advance to just knock mine out, just because I was super busy over the summer. So it was I put it in August. I was like, all right, I'm clearing my day. I'm going to go sign these documents. There's a little bit of a process. I
could see why being a lawyer would be frustrating, because it's like, I don't want to sign my trust anyway. I don't want to think about that. Right. But I have to, so I'm just gonna prioritize other things that maybe I shouldn't over it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like video games.
Exactly.
But circling back to what you said earlier, you wish that you would have had the conversation, it wouldn't have just sprung at you at the age of 18, which is a super challenging age. You're embarking on adulthood. You're embarking on that next stage of life, going to college. That being said, I think most adults don't even know the difference between assets passing through will versus passing through guardianship. And so I couldn't imagine, I think there were hints of having that conversation, but having the full conversation at 13 or 14 years old is kind of challenging as well. So if you were to if you were to have it in a perfect scenario, and obviously there's no perfect scenario, especially talking through grief, it sounds like you would have wanted to learn a little bit about this throughout your kind of high school years, 14, 15, 16, 17, and then up until 18.
Yeah, I wish I learned what the guardianship meant when I was 13 or 14 for sure, because Mom would talk about it, you would talk about it. I had no idea what it meant. Couldn't have even, I thought it was just the name of an account holding everything. And then I also wish that investing conversation happened when I was 15 years old, because I like I was learning about, let's say, interest compounding in school, like about the formula, but I didn't know how it could actually be applicable. And it's like very applicable to a lot of things in my life.
Yeah.
And I didn't really understand how like inflation works, how money grows over time, like all that. And it's important to understand that. And it's also important, like now I know a lot about it because I see it, but it didn't make sense to me at first. So that would have been a good conversation. And then the trust versus will happening, or like the trust and will and how they work together versus how they're different. That conversation happening like a few months before I turned 18 would have been fantastic. And then like the 529 plan conversation and the IRA, all that happening, after I'm 18, but also when I'm applying to college was huge because I mean, the whole college application process was so weird to me because I would talk to my friends I'd be like, oh yeah, like, did you guys fill out the financial aid part about it? And they're like, oh yeah, my parents are taking care of it. And I'm like, I don't even know how it would work for me because I'm writing down that I have these assets that, number one, I've had for 4 months, like whatever. I have not had for a long time. And number two, I don't like, I'm not going to get financial aid because of myself, or like I might not get, not get any, but not get as much because of these assets that I'm writing down about myself. And it felt like everything that I'd write down would be like, oh yeah, how much income am I earning this year? I'm not like working, but also, these accounts are growing. There's different things like that. And it was just so weird. It was just so weird.
So talk about that. So talk about the college application process. And for those who don't know, like the assets that Jake inherited were home proceeds from dad, life insurance proceeds, pretty normal, typical, a 529 account, pretty normal, typical stuff. But when that is all in Jake's name and not the parent's name, it gets counted for by the for college aid. And so like that's what you're alluding to is your EFC, your eligible financial contribution from the family for you was super high because you were able to now pay for college yourself. And we're not saying like one way is better than the other, but there are people who have no assets to their name and their parents are struggling to put food on the table and they need the financial aid. So like filling out a form and just being different from your friends sounds very different, but it sounds like the entire college application process was very different for you.
Yeah, and I'm gonna connect this kind of to something we were talking about earlier, like when you asked me about faculty, how they dealt with grief and whatnot. But in my college application process, the personal statement essay, whether you like those who have been through it know, it's like right now it's like 700 words where you can write about whatever you want. You could write about an apple if you want. You could write about you thinking that the world's going to turn into some dystopia. Like, I don't know. But I wrote a little bit about the idea of overcoming adversity, but also turning adversity into opportunity, not just overcoming, but also getting put in situations that may not, or having things happen to you that may not be favorable, but having that and then creating something out of it, which kind of has been the story of my life. But when I was, doing that, of course, I brought up dad, I brought up the whole situation that happened there, and I really struggled to write about it. Like I struggled to see it on paper. I struggled to think that I was writing what did him justice, what did the whole situation justice, because it's not enough words to do it justice. It's just not. And it's not, I never felt throughout the whole process that I was doing him justice. And I honestly felt that there was a lack of like that I wasn't making him proud because I was not writing exactly what he wanted or like what he would have wanted or what like like I kept saying did him justice. But also I wasn't getting into the
making it come
schools.
alive on paper.
Exactly. And I wasn't getting into the schools that I thought that I could have. So I really thought that it was like I wasn't making him proud because he not only not only was I not writing what I should be because that's why schools aren't accepting me necessarily, but also I wasn't gonna go to his alma mater like you did, and I wasn't gonna like the University of Florida like runs through our veins, and I love that school, and I really wanted to go there, and I was like denied from it, and I was struggling big time with that. I couldn't. I like didn't want to leave the house for the next like day. I was just like, this is where dad wanted, like this is where dad went. This is his legacy. Like he put everything in that school, and and I'm not going to go there. With that being said, uh, I tried talking to some of my college counselors about all of this stuff, how I am struggling to write about it because of this disconnect. And the person that helped with the essays didn't really know what to say to that and didn't really know how to act around it because there's no one to teach. There's no one to say like, hey, by the way, if you're in a situation where you're dealing with someone who writes about their grief, it can cause certain emotions to come out. And this is how, as guiding them, this is how you should guide them to put it into words. There was nobody to teach about that. And I think that that's also a miss on that's also part of the grief getting swept under a rug. It baffled me a little bit because I didn't have that. There was nothing that someone said that was like a oh moment with college applications.
And I do think also on the other side, when there's 90,000 people applying to one school, it's very hard for one person to really read, sit down, feel all the feelings of someone's personal statement and application. More likely than not, technology nowadays is going through AI and they're saying, yep, this is a well-written essay and this isn't, which is crazy, especially when you have a story like yours. And so like that's very dehumanizing. And so and that's what we feel happened at UF. But going at it from a little bit more of the emotion side. So you applied to all these different schools. You had a college counselor. You had myself and mom guiding you. You had a couple other people reading your essays. You had your friends going through it as well. What was it like when you got accepted and when you didn't get accepted to some of these schools?
Yeah, so I had a tier list of the schools that I wanted to go to, really wanted to go to, and like applied to, but more safer, like let's say. So on my top 3 tiers, which was like it was like Duke, Michigan, and UF at the top, and then Texas, and then like Virginia and Vanderbilt, which I love those schools. Like loved them when I visited them. Love all of those schools fully, and love every school I applied to. But I didn't feel like as connected to them. And then for the rest of the tiers, it was like schools that I was told I was going to get into, but as the process went on, I was like kind of shaky about. But it ended up being I got into Wisconsin, Indiana, and Georgia. 3 awesome schools that I love, that are awesome, but I didn't see myself going in the beginning of the process. And then I didn't get into any of those top 6 schools that I said. And I was so upset about it. I mean, when I didn't get into, like, on January 24th, Michigan and UF came out, and Michigan I got deferred from, but UF I got flat out rejected. That was such a tough day because I like everything grief wise came up, everything. Oh my gosh, like I've put these last 4 years into high school for this and I didn't get in. Hearing all these people who did get in and whatnot, and it starts making you compare yourself to other people, and it was kind of nasty. I was so upset like that. It was so bad. And then I got into Wisconsin, which was great, huge relief, and Indiana. I think they came out on the same day actually. Indiana and Wisconsin, great. I loved it. But in the back of my mind, I was always like, I'm not going to go to UF, which is like our family. I'm not going to be there. And I, like you said earlier, I felt dehumanized because I knew that there was no interview process. I knew that my specialty comes from, listening to me, my charisma, like all that, and also what I have on the resume. All they saw was one essay about, my personal statement, and then one essay about UF, which was like, what extracurriculars will you do? Which isn't
700 words. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it was crushing to know that obviously we've grown our relationship and we're very close, but even more so, like honoring dad, and in the process of putting on a charity golf tournament to honor dad, and then finding out that you were rejected from his alma mater and not being able to, like, that's super sad. When did it pivot from being sad to understanding that you could honor him in different ways?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great question. So before that, I had made everything on the Instagram. I tried to make everything orange and blue to be like UF colored. And then I didn't after that. So no, but also,
got him.
I'm gonna say at the beginning of March, I went to New York to pitch a innovation that me and 3 of my peers have been working on called Play AR. It's a software training tool for football players, and we were pitching it in New York, and we won the pitch competition and won some money to go along with it. And it was on the plane ride back home where I was like, he's proud. I was like, he's like, we're putting on a charity golf tournament. It's all coming to life with that. I'm doing the, I went to New York to pitch this competition and won it. And Grief Lift is doing great. And on top of that, our family is closer than it's ever been. We're meeting every other week to talk about the charity golf tournament, and we're also going to Arepa nights, and we're all doing great. And I'm applying to colleges, and I got into Wisconsin, like I got into Indiana. I'm loving these schools. He's proud. And I was like, it switched from, I didn't make him proud to he's already proud, and he's looking down on me, smiling, seeing all these things, not caring about whether I'm going to his alma mater or not. With that being said, on May 30th, I opened my computer when I was on a vacation, and I saw that I had a notification from Michigan Admissions, and I was like jumping out of my seat, out of control in the hotel room, talking to my friends, like, I only told Tommy, I was like, because he was in the room, I was like, yo, like, got into Michigan, this is insane, whatever. But I didn't want to make the trip about me, but I was like jumping off the walls for the rest of the trip. And I'm like beyond happy to be going to Michigan. I think that it was always one of my top choices, and I'm like, everyone who's there I love, and it's a great spot. And anywhere I would have gone, I would have loved, of course, because that's, I think, the person that I am, but also I'm glad it turned out to be Michigan.
Yeah. So it sounds like, and to put a little bit of words in your mouth, but you can elaborate. It sounds like if you were to give advice to someone who is going through this college application process, it doesn't, and they are grieving. Don't let someone who you don't even know, or an AI technology, if you're writing about your person, don't let that dictate like whether or not you feel proud about your work. because there's unforeseen circumstances, and B, it doesn't matter what school or college you go to. There are millions of different ways to make your person proud, and the odds are your person's already proud of you. Dad's already proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah, I would say you perfectly said it. I mean, I realized myself, or I realized probably in late February that someone could be having a bad day, read some applications, be like, oh, writing about his dad's death, this is corny, like throw it away. And it's like that really, that's what made me in such a, or put me in such a bad mood for a while. But at the end of the day, like it doesn't, it's not, it matters, but it doesn't matter as much as, putting it on your person, or thinking differently about yourself. I mean, you have the opportunity to prevail wherever you go. You just got to be that guy. You got to be the person to take advantage of the opportunities. I kind of wanted to talk about like tuition and like paying for college. So I got in May 30th. On June like 15th, they first sent something out about figuring out your payment plan. And I kind of like freaked out because I was like, wait, I am paying for that. Like I control the account that's going to be paying this. Like I'm paying for college, like whatever. I'm creating this payment plan and they don't have auto pay at Michigan, which is kind of frustrating. But I'm like submitting these payments every month. And number one, I haven't even gone to the school yet. Like I haven't even taken a class yet. Number two, I talked to my friends about it and yeah, like out of state tuition is so expensive. And I'm like, oh, like you're telling me like, yeah, but it gets me nervous because of how, like, it is so expensive these days to go to a school out of state. And, I mean, thankfully I am like so in love with the school that I don't care right now. But with that being said, like I went up to talk to my roommate who lives in Ann Arbor. He was saying how expensive it is and whatnot, and how he was asking me kind of about, what the out of state tuition's like. And I told him that I'm paying for it and he doesn't know much about me, which I didn't mean to tell him that I was paying for it, but I kind of did. And he doesn't know much about me and he was like kind of confused. And I realized how rare it is, the situation, not only the situation that I'm in, but also I understand where the money's coming from and it's like my money and I'm submitting the payments. Like I am the one who is keeping track of all that. And it's kind of scary because I don't want to, if I miss something, like it is on me and I get kind of screwed over. When I was applying for classes about, I don't know, like a month ago, I realized I didn't pay the July payment and I was like, why are these classes not letting me submit it? And I was like, oh, it's like, I haven't paid for it and I'm not even on campus yet, like whatever. And I was like, all right, I got to be on it. I got to make sure I'm on it. But it's honestly eye-opening to see not only how expensive it is, but also how much I have to pay attention to that while also being a student at the school, and how it's kind of tough to talk to people about it because, I mean, I don't really know of many people who are going through or like also paying for their own school.
Yeah, I mean, when you lose someone and you become sort of financially independent at a younger age, you also become emotionally independent. You also just become more independent in general. It causes you to mature and become an adult a lot faster. That's what happened to me, and that's what happened to you, and that's what happens to a lot of people. And so you're realizing how the world sort of works in this school vacuum of, hey, if I miss a payment, I won't be able to sign up for classes. If I miss a payment, they're going to not let me go to the gym or join an intramural team that I want. And so by doing it yourself, Um, it's for sure challenging and a lot of pressure, but I do think like later on down the road, it's like bench pressing. If you start early, like you're going to be able to bench a lot more later on if you don't hurt
Yeah.
yourself.
If you don't hurt your shoulder.
You're allowed to make mistakes early. And yeah, you're allowed to make mistakes early and you can recover from it.
Yeah, and I think that that one of the interesting components is, or like one thing that's good that I'm paying for my own tuition is I know exactly what's happening to everything. Like I am now looking at my accounts, understanding like why it's like what's happening, what's fluctuating. And also if I need to pay something to be able to apply for a class or play an intramural sport, I can do that within 20 minutes on my own time super easily. And I don't need to make a call or make sure that other people are like make sure that like mom's home or something like that, which is cool. And on top of that, I understand what's going on, and that's the point of college, right? Is to learn. So it's helping me learn.
100%. I love that attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you said it really well. It's a learning experience for sure. I want to just talk briefly about experience camps. And so for a team, like you were on the fence for a while about going, and you're like, like same as therapy, but I don't need to necessarily go to a camp. I want to hang out with my friends. I want to play football. Like I have all these other obligations. And you finally went this year. And I think from our outside conversations, you were like, wow, I love this. I wish I did this earlier, you know? What was it like for you this year? And if somebody else was on the fence about going to something like experience camps or getting the support that they need, what advice would you give to them?
Love it. Needed this. So I didn't go to experience camps for the first few years. One, because of like the summer camp that I was going to, and two, because I thought that I would be better off making my mind busy with other things, not grief, and that would help my grieving process more, which is not true. It's just straight out like the most progress that I've made in my grieving process has been since we've started the charity golf tournament to now after I've gone to experience camps. Like this is, I feel like I've learned so much in the last year. And even like going back to when I started talking about it with Charlotte, like that 2-year span, it's everything. Experience camps shows you that grieving's fun, but it also shows you the community you have. At the first campfire with all the kids, Bree said, stand up if you've lost someone. And I think 96% of people stood up. And that was so powerful. And nobody said anything. Like everyone just stood up and understood. And that's where, you see the line, the connection between everyone. If you're on the fence about going or not, there's so many things I could say, but one of the main things is every single conversation I had. Okay, if you're going as a counselor, every single conversation I had with a volunteer was the best conversation I've ever had. Everyone there brings something so special to the table. Everyone's there for their own reason, but everyone knows each other's like overarching reason that they're there. And it's a camp built on love, and it's a camp built on trust that I'm there for you, you're there for me, and we're here to listen. I'm there because I want to help you, I want to hear you, and I want you to be the person you are, and I'll be the person I am, and we're gonna create energy from it. I don't even know. And then if you're a kid who's on the edge, who's on like the edge or not, you get the opportunity to actually not only meet other people who are like you, but create friends who have gone through similar things while having the most fun week ever. I mean, my 12-year-old kids, they all of them were first years. 3 of them came in, did not say one word. One of those kids, within a matter of 36 hours, helped perform in a talent show, was a part of one of the other kids in our bunk's act. Another one of those kids performed a solo rap in front of everyone. Like, I don't even know where that came from. And then one of the other kids told me that he's going to see me next year. And I was like, I'm going to see you. And he talked at the final campfire. So, I mean, there's nothing better than feeling like you made a difference in someone's life. And at experience camps, every single kid that you talk to, you're making a difference in their life. Every single adult that you talk to, you're making a difference in their life. They're making a difference in your life for the kids and the adults. And it's, I mean, everyone knows that what's going on is special, and you don't need to say it to know that.
So experience camps, for those who don't know, and I'm wearing the shirt today. It's a 1 week free overnight camp for kids who have lost a parent or sibling. It's kids age 8 to 18. But the organization also has programs that are family camps, that are online communities, support groups, etc., adult grief retreats, so that we're able to cater to everybody in our population to bring grief to the forefront of the conversation and help people navigate their own loss. So I'm super glad you were there. It made my summer incredible, like even better, especially the point like day 2, you're like, damn, I wish I did this earlier. But listen, everybody has their own path, and whether it's experience camps or whether it's another organization, whether it's having conversations in the hallways of school with your friend who also experienced the loss, like find your community, find your people, find what's going to help you get through it. And for us, it's experience camps. For you, it may be someplace else. It may be playing basketball or golf or whatever it might be. So find your community, find your people. Jake, as we wrap up the podcast here, let's say somebody comes to you, they're 12 years old, they find out that they just lost their dad. Do you have any grief mantras or words of wisdom that you would leave them with to help them as they navigate grief?
Yes. Let me think. I would say that all of your feelings are valid and okay. 100%. I would say that, you know, there are going to be tough days, but there are people to help you, and there are people in your community who have also lost someone. I would say to, you know, if you ever need anything, you can reach out to me, of course. But I would also say, like, take time for yourself. Take time to reflect on things. If you go through the first year that you're after you lost someone, and you realize what works, what doesn't work, you realize what makes you happiest, what makes you the most scared, the most anxious. I mean, you can grow from it, and you don't necessarily have to, you know, keep a spreadsheet of it, but you could write it down if you want, and you learn from everything. Everything's an opportunity. So I would just say that everything you do is an opportunity to grow, and you've been through something so hard, so much adversity already, and the experiences that it causes aren't going to change, or aren't going to stop necessarily, but you can grow from it, and you can learn about yourself. And this is it's an opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
I'd also say go to experience
camps. Grief is an opportunity to grow, and all your feelings are valid.
Mm-hmm.
As well as find the people, whether it's Jake, experience camps, myself, this podcast, some of our other guests, or the people in your community who have also gone through it, and connect with them.
Yeah.
So speaking of connections, how can people find you?
So I I would say follow me on Instagram, Jake.Weidenfeld. I post not super often, but not often.
Moderately.
I would say follow my LinkedIn.
What about WWDD Instagram?
And then, that was what I was going to say next. Yeah, I will always say follow the WWDD charity Instagram, and also come to the golf tournament. Like I'm there, Justin's there. I love to talk about myself, so if you want to learn more about me, you can come up to me. Also love to hear about everyone else. So I mean, if you want to see us in action, come to the tournament, but also DM me on Instagram. You can email me, but I love to help people who are going through grief. I mean, everyone who I meet who's lost someone, I think I've created a good connection with, but also those are some of my strongest connections. And I love everyone. So don't be scared.
Everybody. I'm also going to link the Grief Lift website in the show notes as well once you launch it. So
awesome.
That's an amazing organization that's going to help provide grieving peer-to-peer mentorship and resources to schools, which will change the world.
It's great. Thank you. Also, check out Grief Lift. Make sure you do that. It's on the hub. And if you hear play AR again, don't be surprised.
Jake's a man of many talents. He surprises me every day with the accomplishments and the growth that he's had through grief, the opportunities that he's taken advantage of. I'm just so grateful for all of you podcast listeners, grateful for this podcast, and grateful to be able to have Jake on and have this candid and open conversation that we really didn't plan. It just happened. So I love it. Podcast listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The Currency of Grief. It's a great day to have a great day. So go have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Currency of Grief podcast. My hope is that today's conversation brought you clarity, comfort, and even a spark to start those difficult but necessary conversations in your own life. If you found this episode helpful, it would mean the world to me if you would share it with one other person who you feel this podcast could impact. And please, take a moment to leave us a 5-star review. Your review will help us reach more people who need this resource. Remember, the best time to talk about death and money was yesterday. The second best time is now. Until next time, I'm Justin Weidenfeld, your Grief Financial Officer, and this has been the Currency of Grief podcast.